cool. That should be enough to cut out all the fuckery.
Except for now we just started the fuckery.
We did just start the fuckery. That's all right. All right, folks, we are back for another episode of Skirmish Supremacy. I am joined as normal by my co-host, Nick. How you doing, Nick?
I'm doing pretty good.
That's enough of that. We are joined today by Heath Foley of Red Panda Miniatures. He's going to be talking about his upcoming Kickstarter and some of his other stuff that he's been working on. Heath, how you doing, man?
I am doing awesome. Thanks for having me on here, Tim.
You are very welcome, and yes, as usual, please ignore Nick. He will not say anything the whole goddamn time we're broadcasting. As a matter of fact, I made it a point to cut him off just to prove that, yes, I will cut him off when necessary.
And that's why I hate you.
So
I'm gonna send a gang of furries to your house.
God damn it, we're gonna get started on that topic already.
I was gonna say we might as well go ahead and jump on top of that subject.
We're not jumping on furries. No. Let's talk. I want to make sure that, okay, so folks that are listening, Heath has a Kickstarter coming out for his company, Red Panda Miniatures. They look really fucking cool. They are anthropomorphic.
Yes.
We're gonna use the classical term on this, but
Yes.
he's making them more for like an alternate fantasy / D&D RPG style setting, with the idea that later on, if I remember from reading this, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you will be doing a game based on the world of Wander.
Yes, absolutely. That is a game plan. Yeah, all the characters for this game. Speaking of furries, let's just get it off the table. Although I have absolutely nothing against the furry community, you guys do what you're going to do. These miniatures are not visually along that standpoint. I have done a pretty good job being in the industry for about 6 years doing concept art professionally, of designing a lot of animals in armor. So I know the ins and outs of it. So I wanted to start this miniature line. I decided that there wasn't a lot of... I was working on a lot of chibi stuff for Soda Pop at the time, for Super Dungeon Explorer and whatnot, which I really enjoyed, but there's a certain amount of chibi stuff in our industry that doesn't exactly, I don't know, there's something about it that doesn't entirely look right to me, or that I enjoy, so I just thought, why don't I do my own version of chibi, or at least cartoony, and then apply all these animal characters. And I kept trying to figure out where did I get these character ideas from, and it's because as a kid I grew up watching Disney movies, or watching Disney cartoons, or hell, Zootopia just came out recently. The second I saw that, I was like, oh, I picked a good time to release these suckers. So yeah, that's where a lot of the inspiration behind those guys came from.
Nice. So Disney. So before we go off on the furry tangent, because that's going to happen. Like, we've already established that shit's going to happen. For you, a lot of this started because of Disney, and like they've always done a very prolific job of like anthropomorphizing animals.
Yes.
So for those of you that don't know what anthropomorphize means, it means making animals more human. Go read a goddamn book. Anyway, so let's continue on that subject. So you really kind of fell in love with Disney and like that concept, and you decided that you're just going to take it and run.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, like I said, I've been working in the industry for a while, and I've drawn every genre I can think of. For horror, sci-fi, fantasy, realistic, cartoony, you name it, I've probably drawn it. So with these characters, basically, I wanted to take some inspiration from Disney for sure. It's hard not to. I grew up with that stuff as a kid, but I also needed this project as a change of pace, because I've gotten a lot of work from Mantic Games over the years, designing dwarves and elves and things in armor, and demons that are going to give people tetanus when they bite them, and half-naked girls that are going to fight those demons that are going to give them tetanus. I needed a change of pace. And I think that's something I'm seeing in the industry a lot now, is like, everything doesn't have to be skulls and spikes and armor and tetanus and half-naked women, although all those things are nice. I'm not going to argue that. I wanted to do something different. I wanted to try and set up a kind of fun, colorful, vibrant world with these miniatures. And like you were saying earlier, Right now, we're just launching the miniatures, and we're working into actually putting them into their own game, which I'm really excited about. But I'm not going to give too much info on that because it's in such early alpha stages. We've got it 99% mentally figured out, but that can all change very quickly once you start putting a pen on paper and realize, oh, all these rules are garbage, and we're idiots. So a game will eventually come out, but for now, we're just launching some minis.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. So, I mean, it definitely shows, I know I've mentioned this a few times, but, like, on the business side of things, it always helps to know that, like, you're not just going, we has minis and, like, give us your Kickstarter money and you'll never hear from us again kind of crap. You are actually looking at taking everything that you're doing and giving it a purpose outside of the fact that you have miniatures.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to think outside of that situation. People making minis just for the sake of making minis. I mean, it's fun, it's great to do, but as far as a business model, short term, it just doesn't work, man. I can put out a lot of cool minis. That's not the question. I know the right guys. I know all the talent. I know casters. I know everyone. But the question is longevity. How do you actually stay in the industry doing this stuff? And long story short, make a game.
Or
make a game. Yeah. So the plan is to have to stick around for a while, is to make these minis, and part of the game plan is for every mini in this Kickstarter campaign that we're going to come out with via the base goal and working in stretch goals, they're all going to be usable in the game somehow. I don't know if they're going to work as NPCs or if they're going to be playable, but my buddy and I, who I'm working on this game with, are dedicated to making these characters playable. Just because I feel like it would be an absolute shame if you couldn't actually play with these miniatures.
Cool. So, your game design then, are you thinking more along the lines of like more of a dungeon crawl style, like RPG-like game, say like Super Dungeon Explorer or Arcadia Quest? Or are you thinking more along the lines of like this is going to be more of a skirmish style game, such as Malifaux or...
Oh man, I have worked on skirmish-style games before, and that whole idea, we're definitely going board game. It's definitely going to be a dungeon-delving board game like Arcadia Quest or Super Dungeon Explorer or Mice and Mystics. That's what we're aiming for. Again, like I said, early stages, things may change, but it's definitely going to be a board game. There's definitely going to be some kind of dungeon-delving aspect. And we've had some fun ideas with the campaign system and how the enemies are going to work. I like the idea of actually choosing from multiple missions at the beginning and then funneling down to, no matter what, you're going to end up on the final level, but your path to get there is modular. So you can have fun figuring that way out. But yeah, I've tried to design for skirmish games before. It is complicated. There is an absolute crap ton of rules and balancing, and not to mention every single individual character has to get counterbalanced against this and against that. It's just a nightmare. So, yeah, for at least a first game project, I've always loved Dungeon Delvers. I mean, I grew up on Heroes Quest. So, yeah, that's the game plan. Turn it into a Dungeon Delver.
Nice, nice. So, on the Dungeon Delver side, like, so let's talk about that a little bit more. Obviously, you're still in the very early stages of that, so I'm not going to ask for specifics, but are there any of those, I guess more for our listeners, are there any of those Dungeon Delvers out there that you've really been kind of like, those are the ones where it's like, it hit home, and I'm not stealing, but like I'm really borrowing a lot of inspiration from these games in particular. That way it kind of gives people an idea of what it is you're somewhat shooting for.
Oh, goodness. I'm going to throw this out with a giant warning of things change. So being as vague as humanly possible, because I love doing this, we have been playtesting a lot of Dungeon Delvers, really kind of getting a feel for what we want to do, and that's something that my friend is incredibly good at. He literally stays up at night when you can't sleep, and he thinks of game rules. When he's like, instead of counting sheep, he's like, I wonder if I rolled this, what would happen? That's how he goes down at night. So I'm like, okay, awesome, perfect dude to partner up with. As far as what we're generally aiming for, I brought up Mice and Mystics earlier because that's probably one of the clearer ideas in mind. I don't think it would be as campaign, or not campaign, that's the wrong word for it. It wouldn't be quite as deep story-driven as that system was, although I love that. I love the fact that you can read through, you know exactly what's happening, you know the setting. I love the feel of Mice and Mystics. It sets up a world beautifully, and you're getting in there and you're fighting rats and roaches and centipedes and cats, and it really solidifies that world. So that's something that I'm really hoping that we can aim for. And I like a lot of the gameplay in Mice and Mystics, just how simplistic some of the enemies are coming at you and attacking you. So stuff like that I really enjoy. Although other things I enjoy as well, as far as like an armor system, would be Super Dungeon Explorer. They have an amazing system with how you can kind of level up your characters with a shared pool of treasure, dishing out armor and swords, whoever needs this, whoever needs that. That's great. I've always enjoyed that as well. And then on top of that, Star Wars Imperial Assault and Arcadia Quest both kind of have that. Choose a campaign, you go from here. If you fail, you can try it again or go try another earlier campaign. But if you succeed, you get something special and then you keep moving on. Those are kind of some of the core aspects we're playing with. We're also trying to figure out some kind of system so as you're playing through just one sitting, you have characters actually get better and get more abilities as they go, almost kind of like an adrenaline system. But we're still figuring it out, like I said, but those are at least the very vague basics I can give.
Nice, nice. So, okay, so that kind of helps talk a little bit about what's going on in the future. Obviously, the big thing right now is you getting the miniatures done. So let's talk about that a little bit. You've been in the industry, you said, for about 6 years now. Like, what companies have you sculpted for? What other works outside of you, I guess if you want to call it going independent, doing Red Panda, would people know you for? What have you worked on?
Well, I do concept art, first and foremost, but that's cool. It might as well be the same thing, although there's so many damn talented sculptors out there. Who have I worked with? I'm trying to think of the whole list. I think there's something about 17 titles I've worked on before. Mantic Games is one of my bigger ones. Basically everything they put out over the past 5 years I've touched one way or another. Either done designs for or just helped give suggestions and things for that. Although Mantic Games is very good about giving me some freedom with doing some design work, they've also learned very quickly that I'm insane and that some of my free ideas are not good. They once gave me some freedom on I think it was Dreadball. I was supposed to design a Dreadball team, and I came up with this ridiculous MVP who was basically like Flubber from the Robin Williams movie, but he was in a suit of power armor. So I love the idea of this sentient ooze and this humanoid power armor that anytime you broke a rule, he came over and killed you, and then just like flubbered his way away to go after the ball. And they looked at that and they're like, this is great, but we can't use it because it's insane. And I was like, fair enough, I get it. Luckily, though, during one of their other Dreadball campaigns that they did, they ended up using that design, which made me so happy. There's a whole team of little, like, gelatinous oozer players now. It's so good. Besides them, I've also worked with a group called Anvil 8 Games. They produce Ethereum, which is... I don't know if it's gotten that popular yet, but it deserves to be because it's a fun game. Basically,
it's definitely one of those games, like I could speak on that, where it's like it just needs that extra kick in the ass. Like it needs more people out there really pushing it because it is a fantastic game.
Yeah, but they are a small crew, and what they've already done so far is really impressive. I mean, they just got through their second Kickstarter to support the Ikaru, which are kind of this Japanese corporation. If you don't know anything about Ethereum, it's basically, I got to remember the pitch. It's basically like a Matrix-esque game. Basically, they figured out that there's an energy between every atom, and that these scientists tap into it into this infinite cyber void that they then try and slowly take over. And basically, it starts getting run over by corporations and a government state. And then there's other characters like hackers that want to keep it free. So the whole idea is you're fighting over this digital space. But in the actual game itself, if you shift a tile in a certain direction, like the whole game mat has these shifting tiles that you can use a certain amount of points to actually move around. If you get caught in the white space that's not defined territory, you end up getting shredded. So it's very cool, very worth checking out. Beyond that, On the Lam Games, I actually got my start with them. They came out with Endless Fantasy Tactics. They're another small company, but man, that game is so much fun. Not to mention I like the minis. I did design about about 90% of them. They've got something like 75 that they actually have as part of the playable game. And then more recently, I've been working with Soda Pop a whole lot, just doing illustrations and designs, and it has been a nice change of pace. Like I said, you work on big, gritty, tetanus-toothed demons and half-naked women. When you get to draw more half-naked women, but they're really cute and chibi, it's a nice change of pace.
Nice. So you've been around quite a bit then.
Yeah.
This isn't like it's your first Red Panda, not your first foray into anything dealing in the industry.
No. I wouldn't have honestly thought about even starting a company or starting a miniature line until recently. Like I said, about 6 years in, I knew a couple of sculptors, I knew some casters. I started learning stuff about 3D printing, and I thought, why? I should start a miniature line. I'll do something fun. I've always been playing with the idea, but recently it was like, oh God, I can actually do that, can't I? It doesn't take much money up front. Oh. Then from there, things just started developing really quickly, and lo and behold, I think we are 12 days away from the official Kickstarter launch on June 20th, which I am super stoked about.
Nice. So tell us a little bit about Wander. So that's kind of like your fantasy realm that is
Yes.
based around your Kickstarter.
Yes. To not dork out too hard on a world I created, basically the world of Wonder, in my mind, has always been this fantasy world, again, inhabited by these anthropomorphic animals. Basically, they, almost like Zootopia, they took the role of where humans evolved instead. It was kind of animals evolving instead. So in my mind, this world is pretty big, pretty vibrant, but it's also a very conflicted world. There is a giant war raging between two giant factions, which is an empire and then this undead faction up in the north. And they're basically going at each other nonstop, but there's so many things kind of happening under the radar, like the empire subjugating its citizens, or this undead force is not exactly what you think it is. I want the world to be very unique and open and fun, because there's too many... I feel like in our industry there's a lot of grit. There's a lot of crunchy, gravelly settings that are post-apocalyptic, or there's war raging for 40,000 years, or all sorts of things. So I wanted to start kind of trying to build a world that's in between something cute and fun, like Super Dungeon Explorer and Crystallia, that world they built for that, versus something like 40K. I want something where there's conflict and strife, but I also want something where there's this sense of wonder to it. And the whole name with Wander came about when I was trying to think of what kind of story I wanted to tell within that world, where there's all these big epic events happening, but I didn't want to share all the details of that. I wanted a group of characters to kind of slowly go and wander around through the world, kind of finding and telling their own stories and quests. So with the first game eventually that we're working on, the idea is to kind of slowly tell these little micro stories as things go on. And that's something I'm really happy about right now. I've got a person or two writing some fluff currently to kind of help flesh out the world. I'm planning on with the Kickstarter to release little character cards with each of the figurines to give them just a little bit more background. I realize if you're developing miniatures, you don't really need to do quite that much, but it feels right. All these characters have stories in my mind, and I just want people to use them however they want, but to understand if they don't, that they all have a place and they all belong somewhere.
Awesome. Okay. So you're definitely you're trying to make your world a little bit more unique in the fact that, again, it's not dark, it's not gritty. You're not going for the blood and guts and the mud and the boots. You're going for, I don't want to call it an anime style, because it's not, you're not talking like way over the top action. Obviously there's a slight bit of that element in there, but you're not going for that crazy, ridiculous, Slayers style.
Yeah. The best description I can give is, if you guys have watched it, Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yes. Okay.
that feel for the world where there's serious consequences, but there's still a cabbage guy making jokes. That's what I want. That's exactly what I would want. So that's what I'm aiming for. Hopefully it comes off, but this thing is, as soon as the Kickstarter comes out and people start getting these miniatures and I can get some people writing some things, it's going to start taking a life of its own. And so right now, the kind of Avatar The Last Airbender, that feel for the world, that's what I want, but that may not necessarily be what it turns out becoming. It may get darker, it may get lighter, it may be cartoony and fun, but right now, that's what I'm gunning for.
Nice. Well, it's a good medium because it has, I guess if you want to call it, more mature elements and consequences without making it feel like kick-ass, I guess, for lack of better terms, where it's like, oh yeah, we're all adventurers, but we're all going to get our faces kicked in and neutered and thrown back out into the world like completely useless.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be consequences. I mean, hell, one of the characters in the Kickstarter has lost an arm, and the fluff is he basically lost it during a fight, but he doesn't let it hold him back, and instead of using a sword and a shield, he's just got a giant shield with spikes on it. So there's consequences. Characters are going to bleed and lose limbs, and there's going to be death, there's going to be life, there's going to be all sorts of things. It's just, I don't know, it's a wide open world. That's part of the reason I'm excited about it, is there's a lot of stories that are sitting there waiting to be told, and I haven't gotten a chance to do it yet.
Nice. So, talk to us a little bit. Obviously, I don't want you to go into too much detail because we don't want to spoil anything that you're doing. That's not my goal. However, you've got the 5 adventurers right now.
Yes.
What are your plans for stretch goals or other ideas that may or may not make it into the campaign?
Well, I have so many ideas. Adepticon was really cool because a lot of people came up, and actually that was my first foray into I am a real company. That was my first foray into that. So I got a lot of suggestions and ideas, and since I announced this thing, I've had a lot of different concepts. I won't share the stretch goals, the first 3 yet. I want those to be secret because I want those to be a surprise. I'm going to tease one of them before the Kickstarter, but some of the ideas I've got are there is a pug Sicilian merchant lord.
Okay.
I just love the idea of this kind of mafioso pug and like the big puffy sleeves sitting behind a table just being like, Buonasera. I just love it.
See, I was picturing a pug Borgia.
Yeah, pretty much. So that was one idea. I just love the idea of him with 2 German shepherds on either side of him, just kind of guarding him. That was one idea. Another one was a pirate gorilla grappler, so basically like a pit fighter, but a pirate gorilla. And someone mentioned you should make it a female gorilla. You don't see a lot of those, and I was like, oh yes, gonna do that. I just love the
gorilla.
I just love the idea of this giant gorilla with these giant punching gloves, but like a skirt. Beyond that, I've also got. This is actually a suggestion that a guy made. He said, you need to do an alpaca. And I was like, oh my god. Like because here's the thing when you're doing like animals and characters and armors, your thought process immediately goes to something like a wolf or a stag, something that's got a big presence about it, or like a red panda. It's a very visual, identifiable animal.
Something that comes off as like badass. Like that's the first thing that your mind jumps to.
Yeah, like I've got an idea for like a big cat, like a snow leopard that's also going to be on the punchy side of things, although that may be a little too Kung Fu Panda. But yeah, so the alpaca one came about, and I was like, oh my god, I need to, like, I want it to happen as a challenge to myself. It's going to be an alpaca bounty hunter.
With a blowgun.
Oh my god. Well, here's the idea, was to do an alpaca that is like The Good and the Bad, the Ugly, Clint Eastwood, with like an eye patch and a snaggletooth. Like, I freaking love that idea so much. And I'm really happy that guy gave it to me. He's just like, you can have it. And I was like, thank God, I want it.
See, I'm picturing that guy, like I was saying, with like a blowgun, because alpacas spit. So it's just like a natural weapon for him to have a blowgun where it's like he just shoots things at people. He spits into a pipe and shoots things at people.
See, if this was an actual animated show, I could see a whole joke reel of just him spitting in a spittoon like every other sentence.
Yes.
Oh my God, what else besides that? I want to doing insects in this world. I kind of imagine, because there aren't the animals or people, I tried to imagine what would be the kind of workhorse of this universe, and insects are one of the things that came to mind. I'm remembering the Bugaloo from freaking Futurama. But there is an idea I had for. I've always loved big armored giant beetles. Always loved them. I think if you're a concept artist and you don't love them, you're wrong. So I had this idea of doing a death knight. Like, when you step on an insect or a cockroach and it gets back up and skitters away with like one leg kind of trailing behind it.
I spent 10 years in Florida, so it's kind of like the palmetto bug. You'll step on them, they'll kick you back.
Yeah, or you'll try and crush it, and then it'll find you in the night and then stab you.
Right.
I lived in Savannah for a couple of years, so yeah, I know what that's like.
They don't just stab you; they'll take your wallet too.
I blame the schools.
Yeah.
No, so I had this idea for this armored Death Knight beetle, and the thing is, they have 6 limbs, so I thought it could walk upright on the back 2 legs, then have either 2 two-handed swords, like one on each side, or have 4 different weapons in its arms. So basically, it'd be just a whirlwind of death. I really like that idea, but I'm not sure if that one's going to make it in or not, but we'll see. But that's the thing too. I mean, if you think of the entire freaking animal world, there's so many things to pick from. And the thing is, the rule of thumb I've set up is this. It can't be predictable. Like, there's the turtle tank. That one was too easy, but I made him lose an arm, so that was fine. But it can't be too painfully predictable. Like a wolf hunter is an easy, predictable character to do, but like a wolf ranger with a crossbow, instead of making him like come up and claw at things, that's something a little bit easier. So an example would be a platypus. Or a beaver would be like a leather worker, or not a leather worker, would be a woodworker, or would own a lumber mill or something like that. A little too predictable, so I'd want to try and put a twist on it. An example is a platypus. Someone mentioned you've got to put a platypus in this game, and I was like, I could see that, but I could see him being a blacksmith and then using his tail to actually work the bellows as he's smithing during the day.
And you got to make him a ladies' man, because everybody says that they're the ugliest animal on the planet.
They have a poison barb in their leg. They're awesome.
They are awesome. I love platypuses.
I was going to say, if it's someone in the tabletop industry who doesn't think platypuses are awesome, they need to go home.
Yeah, seriously.
But yeah, that's just some of the ideas I've got for it. There's plenty of room for other ones. There's actually going to be a backer level in the campaign. I can't remember the amount off the top of my head, but if you want your own character in the game or in the universe, feel more than free to back at that level, and you'll guys get to work directly with me, and we'll figure out a character for you.
Nice.
Yeah.
So that's always a good incentive, because I know, especially with, I don't want to call your campaign small, but let's face it, you're not a bigger company. You're not representing like a major publisher out there.
It's a 6K base goal, so it's a small campaign.
Sure. I mean, so you said it, but I didn't. But, but again, when it comes down to especially when you're more of an independent guy, you definitely want to put out there, like, showing it's like, look, I am working with the community to make this more their project than it is mine, if that makes sense. Because you got like the bigger companies, again, I've worked for Cool Mini or Not for quite a while, so I know how their Kickstarters run. Mm-hmm. So, with them, it's like, okay, cool, you do all these big, crazy backer levels, but it's like they've had everything planned out so far in advance to everything they're doing, where it's like, the whole custom character thing, like they did with Zombicide Season 2, that didn't happen until they were already, I don't know, I want to say it was like $500,000 in.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you do $500,000, I'm sure you'll just say everybody gets their own free character. But having a level like that for people to kind of reach is, and for a lot of people, a big thank you as well, because it's like you're helping their vision come to life through your project.
Well, yeah, I'm just. What's the best way of putting this? Is I'm just the guy who's getting this off the ground. I don't want people to think that this is such a closed-off world that there aren't more stories or more characters that can be introduced to it. If someone's got a good suggestion for a character that they want to see in the game, I'll listen to it. I'll gladly read that email and be like, that's awesome. I'll see what I can do. I'm also a very small operation, so it may take a while before I get it in there. But, supporting the community and having their input and really taking it to heart, that's one of the key things about this industry. The second you stop doing that, you're screwed. They are going to just absolutely burn you for it. Because I love our industry and I love the backers and the people that are in the stores. I love them to death. I love the customers. But if, like most nerds, if you get on their bad side or get their passion wrong, they will burn you. So you got to be a little bit
toxic fuckers.
Toxic? No, they're not at all. They just wouldn't burn out. Well, listen, as long as our community doesn't turn into like a MOBA, League of Legends kind of community, I'm happy.
I would be burning every game sword to the ground possible.
Can you imagine playing like a skirmish tabletop game and some guy comes up to you and be like, "Way to go, I fucked your mom," and then just walks off and you're like, "What?" What? You realize this isn't the internet. I can see you.
And anybody that knows me also knows what I would do to them if they did that to me.
I'd be highly entertained.
It's funny, because a lot of that can also be said of, like, well, any internet community. I haven't really mentioned it before on the podcast, but, like, I've mentioned it a little bit, but, like, I play fighting games pretty competitively. Like, I used to go to Evo and a lot of things like that. Playing Street Fighter, my games of choice were always like BlazBlue and Guilty Gear. I love those like high speed, like you need to be on meth to compete, like anime games where it's like timing is everything and there's air dashes and air cancels and more than just if I throw this combination I will hit and I will win. Mm-hmm. I like a lot of that craziness. And of course, playing online, I started getting into other games, and I remember there was one time, this is going way back, like I started realizing how toxic the whole like internet, like I'm anonymous behind a keyboard or behind a microphone kind of bullshit is. I was playing Rainbow Six Vegas, the first one that came out, and I remember I was playing the rooftop level, and I don't remember the name of it. So any listeners out there, if you remember it, please help me remember because it's been that long ago. But it was like first game, it was like the most popular map. And there was this kid in there, and he couldn't have been any older than 12, 13.
Squeakers. Got it.
Yeah, Squeakers. And he's in there, he's like, I fucked your mom last night. And I'm like, and of course it's like every line is like, your mom, I fucked your mom, yada, yada. And I was like, well, yeah, that's great, kid. I mean, the joke's on you. My mom's got AIDS. And I just left it at that, and everybody was like, wow, you were a dark son of a bitch. I'm like, hey, I shut him up, didn't I?
As you notice, I'd be the one guy in the chat lobby that'd be like, "Oh."
I mean, I got a lot of that, but at the same time, it's like I noticed that even going into the fighting game community. I remember one time I was playing a game of BlazBlue online, and I know we're kind of going off track here, but you have these morons that are like, well, they've learned like 2 combos they saw from YouTube, and so it's like suddenly they're a master of the game, and I could tell the kid was using a fight stick just because you could hear like the 8-way, the octagon gate on the ball stick and the buttons. You could tell that it was a fight stick. I didn't know if it was like one of the like typical $80 ones or like one of the expensive like $200 ones. I couldn't tell that. But I remember that we were playing BlazBlue and I ended up catching him in a nasty fucking combo because of the fact that he just kept doing the same predictable like shit over and over and over again. It's like you're gonna catch me with it once and you'd be like, okay, you're this guy. And so I would just school him, and then he'd be like, well, I can guarantee you're not going to do that to me the next round, and he was all like butthurt. And so the next round it comes again, and sure as shit, 20 seconds into the match, I've got him into a 99 hit combo with him in the corner, and I was an Arakune player, and I know this probably means absolutely nothing to anybody listening, but Arakune was a dick. Okay, if I got you in the corner, you were fucked. So I caught him in the corner with like a 99 hit combo, and I never let him touch the ground. I remember hearing this kid screaming and like slamming his like his fist on the buttons of his joystick and like him reaming on the fucking joystick trying to make something happen. And I'm like, is this what the internet has come to? Is this what gamers have come to? I mean, maybe it's just because I'm old, but like I remember like walking into arcades or game stores, and if you play against somebody, like you're right there. if I was to be that kind of a dick to somebody, it meant I was probably getting my ass kicked.
Yeah.
You know? So like that whole thing of like people being that way online, I don't get it.
Well, I'll put it to you this way. I grew up. I feel like I was just young enough / old. My age range is appropriate for people like I didn't really get into playing games online until I was 18 or so. That's when it started becoming like everyone was playing games online. And I just remember I was a younger brother. So I played with my older brother or his friends or my friends all the time. Where if you were a dick, you got hit. You got just like I got punched in the face or the head, or I got hit by a ladder once. Things happen.
You guys took the Mario seriously.
But that's when you're sitting side by side with someone and they can give you a nut shot if you're really being an absolute bastard to them. Whereas the alternative example is when I was playing back in my Call of Duty days. It was right after a breakup. I played Call of Duty for a while. Forgive me. Although I loved it to death. I did. This is back in the Modern Warfare 2 and 3 days.
It was a dark time.
It was a dark time. Although we came up with a lot of fun lobby pranks. That was a good time. I remember this one time I was playing against a squeaker. And it was me and my brother had a whole clan, so we had a full lobby of just us in our chat group. And then this one kid, we played a round of it, and he died 3 times, or he got 3 kills, died 21 times. Which in Call of Duty, you might as well just go bury yourself alive because you're terrible. Even though I'm pretty sure I had a 3-52 game once. That was a bad time.
You were fantastic.
I was awesome at that game. No, but like this is when I was when I was actually good at shooters. I'm not anymore. So this kid, he lost so bad, and I was sniping on that map, and I killed him. He ran out the same route, killed him 13 times in a row. 13 times in a row. I remember we got in the lobby afterwards, and he was like, "Come on, bro, one-on-one. Put the clans aside, bro. You and me." Again, 12-year-old squeaking kid. "You and me, bro. Let's go. Let's do this. Yeah, I fucked your mom." I'm sitting there like, dude.
That is always thrown in there. I fucked your mom.
It's you're gay, I fucked your mom, something else. And something I've disturbingly discovered recently is people making masturbation noises and then listening to loud techno. I don't know why, but it's happening a lot. So that kid lost his mind on me, and then we're sitting there, he kept saying, like, "One-on-one, bro! One-on-one!" And we just sat there like, "Kid, it's a game. Calm down." Which, coming from me, is rich. I do have some video game rage. A lot. So the next round we played against this kid, of course, none of us backed out. None of his clan backed out. None of mine did. I got in the same spot, and then I think he died 25 times that round and got 1 kill. And then the second the round was over, he just rage quit and got out of there. And I was like, someone's got a broken video game controller. Guaranteed. Yeah. But see, if that had happened when he was sitting next to me on a couch, it would have been like, okay, you need to put the controller down and walk away. It'll be all right.
That's actually what I'm working on with my 10-year-old is, hey, don't get mad at the game just because you suck at it right now. Just go play it again. Because he plays, like, even on his phone, he'll be playing Mortal Kombat, and he's like, the computer's totally cheating. They can't do these things. Well, apparently they can. I mean, the computer doesn't cheat. Might feel like it, but they don't.
See, that's why games like Dark Souls are brilliant, because you're going in knowing that you don't have a chance. So once you actually get past it, it's this huge accomplishment.
Yes, that is the one thing with Dark Souls that I can say is, like, anybody that has played anything from Software, you know exactly what you're getting into. And if you don't, then clearly you don't know how to internet. Mm-hmm. Because they don't even, like, Dark Souls is a good example of that. They've got an entire screen of statistics that they tell you nothing about. They expect you to figure it out on your damn own. Mm-hmm. Like, what does vitality boost? What does strength boost? What does dexterity boost? What does intellect boost? What does faith boost? You know, and it's all this stuff where it's like, what am I gaining by putting points into these? You know, I'm trying to make like a big tank guy, but like dexterity seemed like a fantastic idea. Well, no. I mean, it might for a little bit, but knowing what it takes in order to really make everything work in that game is such a bitch. And like you get into the games knowing that, and if you go in there thinking that like you're gonna have just a fun little time, it's gonna suck. You're gonna hate life, and you're probably gonna jump out your second story window.
As someone who has fallen through a second story window, it's not a good time. Don't do it. Trust me. Yeah, I agree full-heartedly. That game, if you go in there expecting to, I think that's something that we have come to understand in video games recently is like they're all very easy. It's all built for you to get to the end no matter what, because you spend all this money developing a game. You want people to get to the end of it. Where From Software is just like, nah, if you quit, we don't care. Go home. You're fine. Go cry in your diaper. You're gay. I had sex with your mom. I'm imagining this really proper Japanese guy saying that, then bowing and then walking away, and I'd just be like, I got nothing. You win.
You're a gay. I fucked her mom. Dong. And just walked away. Well, we're getting letters. All right.
Yeah, I think the gong noise. I think that's what pushed it. That pushed it to a level of hilarity we needed. And letters. Lots of letters. The guy that's making that Red Panda game, he's a racist.
He's a racist.
No, I'm not. There's all animals of shapes, creed, and colors in my game.
Exactly.
Except those pandas. I'm just kidding.
Fucking pandas.
God damn.
The main character has panda in his name. I'm gonna get hate mailed by someone, and I'm gonna be like, dude, they're animals in armor. Just don't buy the minis. That's fine. I can deal with it.
The furry community will come up and pause.
Get it? Pause. Listen, if the furry community digs these minis, I am going to be a very happy individual because they have money that they can spend on things, and if my minis involve that, awesome, I'm on board.
When they're not sauntering off in a hallway in the middle of a convention, fapping to one another in their fox suits. Yep, I said it. I'm a fan of furries. Sorry, folks.
It's okay. I take the official stance of as long as nobody's getting hurt and you don't touch my face after whatever event you're doing, that's fine. I actually...
Also, go ahead, sorry.
I actually do know some people who have either done furry events in their past or have dated people who are serious furries, and they will staunchly defend it, as is their right. But at the same time, for me, personally, I'm not into it, but that is okay. Again, if they want to buy my minis, I'm more than happy for them to do it.
Right. I've always had a saying that I've used when explaining, because people always wonder, why furries weird me out. Well, there was one instance, I'm no longer allowed into Anime Milwaukee. Go into that in a second, but I actually had to explain this to people once. They were like, why do furries bother you so much? And so I remember talking to my buddy, and I told him, so let me get this straight. We're gonna call him Bill we're gonna protect his name for this one. So I was like, Bill, let me ask you a question. If you and Angie, and again, that's not a real name, but we're gonna keep him protected, okay? If you and Angie were walking down the street and I was just walk up to you at random, and again, so keep in mind, anybody listening, I'm talking about the weirdo furries that don't know their own fucking boundaries. Keep that in mind. If you want to get together in fox suits and rabbit suits and all that and do something off in the woods where nobody's paying attention, cool. However, some of the initial furries I've run into were those weirdos that thought that it's perfectly okay for them to run around in these suits and do whatever they wanted to people. So I remember telling Bill, I was like, hey, man, so let me ask you this. If I were to walk over and just start dry humping your woman's leg in the middle of an alleyway or out in the middle of the sidewalk, answer me honestly, would you beat my ass and make sure I go to jail? And he's like, yes, immediately. I was like, okay. So now let's say that I were to do that same thing, but I'm wearing a ski mask. Does that make it any better? And he was like, no, not at all. I was like, okay, so if I were to put on a rabbit suit and walk over to her and start doing that, would that be okay? And then he stopped and he thought about it. He's like, damn it, I got to stop defending furries. So another thing that happened, just for anybody out there, so yes, I've had my own personal run-ins, and I'm sure I'm going to get letters on this. Bear with me. I was at Anime Milwaukee, so I'll explain to you why I got kicked out. I was at Anime Milwaukee, and one of my buddies, who I told, after my previous encounters with some of these fucking out there furries, decided that he was gonna have one come up behind me and like hug me really tight. Okay, so two things: don't ever come up behind me and like hug me really tight. Okay, I've trained for shit like that. I will drop you. Two, when I don't know it and there's a bunch of people around me and all I feel is like fur on the back of my neck and on the back of my arms, I'm going to wig the hell out. Let's just say that if it wasn't for the helmet that this guy was wearing that was nice and padded, the suplex probably would have killed him. I got kicked out of Anime Milwaukee. And my buddy, that I'm not going to mention his name, and his friend that also thought this was hilarious decided to say, oh, that was one of the most epic things we've ever seen. And I'm like, I almost killed a kid because you guys wanted to push the limits. Congratulations.
I understand the seriousness of it. Two things. One, I'm pretty sure those guys get a very bad rap for the activities of just a small few within them. So
oh, yeah. It's like anything else on the planet, and I understand. I totally do.
Agreed. Two, I think the sentence that you got kicked out of a convention because you suplexed a furry who, in a certain sense, had it coming for hugging you from behind, it's got to be one of the funniest damn things. I mean, in my mind, violence is cartoony, so I feel bad. This is going to make me sound like a monster, but my most recent ex would agree that I'm a monster because of this specific thought of pushing a grandmother down a set of stairs is one of the funniest things I can possibly think of. Not because she's going to take damage or die at the end of it. That's horrible. Just for the noise that she would initially make of grrr as she's going down, and then at the bottom she'd hop back up with her walker and be like goodness, and then like shuffle off. That's how the violence happens in my mind. So
it's always cartoonish, always.
So with your suplexing the furry, I just immediately imagined him making this like dog squeaker toy noise the second he made impact with the ground.
Well, I couldn't tell what he said, but he definitely said something as I lifted him, because I mean it was very sudden. Again, like this wasn't like I let him sat there and kept groping me. It was like it happened. I was like, fuck this, and like it was just like I was done, because again it was like it'd be different if he came up behind me, like put his hands on me. Like first I'd be like, okay, dude, not cool, but like he came up behind me and like my hands were down at my side, okay, because I had like my phone in one pocket and I had the ticket for the event in the other one. So it's like my hands were at my side, and he came up and like hugged me around like my arms, just like if somebody were to grab you and kind of lift you up, like bear hugging you, only from behind in a fox suit. And it was just like I lost my shit. Like I did, and I will 100% admit it. But it's one of those things. It's like, first off, again, even wearing these costumes, I understand that you're having fun with the shit. What made you think that was okay?
maybe your friend asking him to come from behind and hug you.
Well, again, that should also be another thing. That like a stranger telling you, "Hey, it's a good idea to go hug that tattooed guy over there." Go sit behind the tattooed guy and go hug him.
That guy's got forearm tattoos. Go touch him.
Yeah.
I think that's a rule of thumb. Don't hug Tim from behind. Got it.
Right. Well, I mean, you and Nick probably could. It'd be okay. I'd be okay with that.
I mean, look at us. We're adorable.
Exactly.
Totally.
I can get with that. It's totally fine. No homo. But anyway, that kind of like my weirdness from furries comes from like a couple of different things. And like again, for the furry community out there, if anybody's out there listening, I'm sure I'm going to get some hate mail. I'm sure I'm going to get some unsubscribers. Understand that again, what it comes down to for me, it's always those couple of assholes, just like any other community on the planet, that ruins it. Okay? That's where I'm going to leave it.
Just like when you run into the tabletop gamer who hasn't showered for 4 days. Again, this is a small minority, but I've been to a convention.
It for everybody.
You seem to smell them all.
Listen, Gen Con needs proper air conditioning. All I remember is I had friends that were working in the demo hall all day long, and they were just like, dude, I can't handle it. Just as a suggestion, pack more than one shirt. Deodorant is always good. It's always interesting when I hear things like, "Oh, I wish there was more like women in the tabletop gaming community," and I was like, I don't think you understand that there are a good amount of women in the tabletop. A, in the industry, it's diversified as hell, and I love that about it. And B, in the actual player base, the problem is that at a big convention, when you're sitting around a bunch of dudes who haven't showered, not all of them, again, guaranteed, but a small percentage of that plumber butt, no showering, sweating for days, and then kind of grunts and stares you down, it's not reflecting upon us well. It's not.
Yeah,
I wish
not
it
at
was.
all. And as much as everybody likes to jump on the train and saying, "Oh, well, we're a very inclusive group," it's like, "Oh, we wish there were more women." Well, here's the thing: stop acting like a fucking creeper and shower. There will be more women. It's just that's all there is to it. I hate to say it like that, but nobody likes to be around disgusting people.
Yep.
That's why we do a podcast.
Yes.
In our own homes.
Nobody needs to know that I'm not wearing pants. Except for right now, when I just go ahead and say it.
Yet somehow you manage to fit it in almost every episode.
It's my damn show. I'll do what I want. I still get listened to.
Yeah, I was going to say, if the man wants to wear pants or not wear pants, that is his business.
Right.
Just as long as you don't do that at a convention. Don't go in there pantsless. Bad things will happen to you.
Yes, don't go in there pantsless. So one other thing I got to throw in there too when it comes down to conventions. If you're going to cosplay, I understand that. I respect it because a lot of people put a lot of hard work into it.
Mm-hmm.
However, a cosplay convention with the weapons and the armaments and wings and everything else, totally cool. I get it. Dragon Con is your con. Okay? Now, I'm not saying that to sound like I'm not going to be inclusive to other conventions and people doing that. But one of my biggest problems that I have with so many of these people that get into the cosplay when it comes time to conventions are the people with like the giant-ass weapons or things that get in the way. I'm going to take Gen Con as a good example of that. If anybody who's listening has ever been to Gen Con, you all know how busy and jammed that exhibitor hall gets. If there was a fire that just erupted in the middle of that exhibitor hall, I guarantee you at least 50 people are dying. Because people are not going to be able to get out of there.
I bet you if they had an actual fire drill that happened during the convention, everyone would be outside and there would just be a litany of anime cosplay weapons lining every inch of the hall. Just people just dropping them. They're done, out.
Yeah. So, one of the biggest problems that people have, especially with like the bigger, I guess you want to call them consumer show conventions like Gen Con and Origins and things like that, is the people that cosplay, people always want their pictures. I get it. It's totally cool. Cosplayers have put a shit ton of work into their costumes. Like, they're going there because they want to show off their work. I get it. However, taking those pictures off to the side to where you're not getting in the way of the rest of the crowd is important. And I know that Gen Con's gone out of their way to really make that happen. However, the other part behind that, too, is that if you're going to have giant, obnoxious pieces of your costume, like any of the 18 weeaboo kids out there that you will find in any Starbucks facility during the convention at any one particular minute, and they're all carrying around these oversized, like, bleach swords from the anime, and you're walking around the convention with that shit strung over your shoulder and looking around, and you're turning your whole body and smacking people in the face with your giant foam sword, get it the fuck out of there. There's a time and a place for that. In the exhibit halls where there's a lot of people, that's not it.
All this is reminding me of one of my favorite things that happens around the time of Gen Con, which is people in ridiculous costumes riding public transit. One of my favorite things. Like, they will hop on MARTA, and you will see a kid dressed like a character from Yu-Gi-Oh! And then my favorite part is watching all, like, the normal people who have no idea Dragon Con is happening at all. And then suddenly there is super anime kids sitting there just like it's another day. Like, you know what, this is a Tuesday. I'm just going down. I actually, thinking about that, when I was in college, I went to school, I went to SCAD for sequential art, comic book art. And we were a all-inclusive, if you want to be a nerd, let your freak flag fly, go for it, game on. So we had kids literally come to class every single day in a full-blown anime costume. And, we were a no judgment zone, so they could do that. We were completely on board, but
Just like Planet Fitness.
part of me was just sitting there thinking, like, dude, you have to get from your dorm to the actual building where your classes are. Like, there's a whole middle zone where people have no idea what's happening. I would probably follow a blog in about 5 seconds that were just nothing of people's reactions to kids in ridiculous cosplay costumes.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be like people at Walmart, but twice as entertaining.
Yeah. I think that is, especially when it comes down to people like that, and again, what it comes down to is, again, if you are not obstructing anything or hurting anybody, let your freak flag fly. Like, you want to dress like Naruto every damn day of the week, just make sure you have multiple costumes so I don't have to smell you. That's really kind of my big thing is, but again, like the convention thing and things like that, like those halls already get crowded enough as it is, and like when you're walking around with like some big 8-foot sword, I understand you put a shit ton of work into that. I get it. I respect it. I'm cool with it, especially if it comes out looking really, really nice. Or if you're a younger kid and like this is your first project and you're just getting into this and like, sure, it's rough and tumble. We all get it, but we respect it. But the moment you have that shit slung over your shoulder and you're spinning around and you're whapping everybody in the head who's just like walking by, like eventually you're going to hit the wrong damn person. And as much as I understand these are all like safe spaces and safe zones and everything else people like to throw out there, somebody's going to take offense to that, and it's going to make your time at this convention terrible because you were not thinking of others.
I think we've all been there when you've been walking behind someone in some ridiculous costume like that. Maybe not ridiculous, but there's a lot. I remember walking behind someone who had a full set of angel wings, full size, that were out. And they were walking around the aisles. I remember very specifically, there was this woman walking ahead of me, and she just had to do the power dive to like get out of the way of the wing coming at their face. And I was like, how many times have I been at a convention where I've had to do that?
Oh, again, yeah, and it's annoying, and especially like if you can't, it comes down to that thing too, where everybody that's moving in there, unfortunately, you kind of develop that herd mentality where it's like, well, I guess I'm walking this way. You're not really like, you almost feel like a dick for stopping and looking in a booth because it's like there's so many people that are like coming up behind you that you veering off that path is slowing them down. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's one of those things. It's like you're dealing with that where somebody's got like a full spread of wings on, and like now the path has to clear for these people. And like if they turn around, what happens if they turn around? Or what happens if like something startles them? Or and I'm not saying that they're like freaky, flighty people, but like like something in the booth, like you're walking by. Gen Con's one of those places. There's always that din of noise, but then you've always got those guys that like to create those elaborate booths where it's like they might have a video on, right? And you're used to that din in the background, but then it's like you hear like a thunderclap, and it's like right next to your freaking head. And it's like there's always something at Gen Con that startles you a little bit to where you kind of stop and do that turn, And it's like, what happens if you're wearing these full spread of wings and you're basically like turning 90 degrees? Like, you're gonna be hitting a lot of people. You're gonna be pissing a lot of people off. You're gonna be slowing down a line of people that are like, okay, I might be here for one day, but I need to hit all these booths, and they're all in opposite sides of this giant convention hall.
I think what they should do is have like an exhibitor lane, like how streets have bike lanes.
Yes.
Which I live in downtown Atlanta. There's a lot of people riding bikes. That's great. Do your thing. Be fit. Just don't ride it in the middle of the street and then when I pass you, scream, you're a motherfucker at me. I kind of appreciate it if that didn't happen. But no, at Gen Con, I swear they should have a light system at most intersections, especially near the big booths. And there should be a exhibitor lane, one person wide. That's it. But so you can just stealthily make your way through, because you're working a booth and you're using the restroom for 5 minutes. That's enough time for someone to lose a sale. I want it.
I can tell you this just from working the different booths that I've been at Gen Con. There's been times where I might be 3 entries down, like 3 booths, if you want to call it that, or 3 spaces down from a bathroom. And because of traffic, especially on like that Thursday when everybody's in there for that rush of the new stuff, and Saturday when it's like the people that couldn't make it for the 4 days, but like this is their weekend to geek out, like those are your 2 busy days during Gen Con.
Mm-hmm.
3 spaces down from the bathroom, and it takes me sometimes 15 minutes just to go and take a leak.
Yep.
Like, that should not be a thing. Like, I know a lot of people have said Gen Con has become way crowded. It's become too big of a show. And a part of me says that's really cool because it shows that, like, people really want this stuff to happen. But at the same time, like, you cannot, as a con goer, if you go to Gen Con, get pissed off and up in arms if they start putting in rules that might restrict what your version of fun is. If your version of fun is disrupting to other people, and I'm not talking harm, but again, like the giant costumes, the giant bullshit hanging off of it, and again, I only say that because that's how people perceive it when you're in these giant lines or like packed areas. Maybe being in the exhibitor hall with that stuff on is not the best idea. Have the cosplay hallway. Like, I know a lot of people said, well, then you're stifling our creativity. Not really if you actually make it a hallway with, like, this is the space for that, and there's banners and everything else to point people there. Because, again, people are taking pictures of you. They're appreciating it. You can't tell me that us, as normal con-goers, being appreciative of you off in your own section, your own dedicated section, doing that stuff is going to be detrimental to your version of fun for a convention. I don't buy it. Wow, I sound like a political asshole. But, you know, I think my thing of it is I've just been to so many conventions now that I become jaded.
I'll freely admit, after you go to 6 years worth of conventions, at least 3 major conventions a year, yeah, there's certain things, like, okay, first year of the convention, you see people in costumes, you kind of deal with the lines because there's so much stuff to look at, so much wonderful things to take in. That was my first year at Dragon Con. Beautiful costumes, awesome stuff to look at left and right, got hit in the face at least 7 times, that was fine. But at the point we're at now, like, people in the giant costumes does bother me. Not terribly, but typically because I can see them coming and I can be like, nope, and then just shuffle my way around it. The thing that gets me the most is just shuffling in a crowd. I don't know what it is. I don't get angry at many things, but being a cattle in a crowd, man, drives me absolutely crazy. And it's 90%, it's a convention. People are literally stopping and they're looking at things. That's cool. Go for it. It's when people check their phone in the middle lane of the traffic that makes me wish I had a cosplay of a, like, snowplow that's angled just towards the side so I can just plow through the middle and be like, all right, we're cool, don't worry about it. That's
or
fine.
A freight train. Yeah, one guy cosplays a freight train with the cattle splitter on the front, and you come in behind like the snowplow. People will start getting the hint the moment you start running into people with that shit.
That guy's going to have a very short con, but he's going to be very entertaining while he's there.
Oh, I would take pictures the whole way. I'd be the camera guy behind him, just following him, watching his hijinks.
I love that guy.
Yeah, I would be the guy with his phone out, but I would just be following and filming this. It'd be like almost like an ambulance chaser. Just something bad's going to happen, and I'm going to catch it on film.
Oh, man. All this talk about cons. Now I'm excited about Gen Con. I'm mainly excited because it's going to be my second foray as, like, an official presence. Like, I have a product. Look at it. Don't you want to buy it?
And if you talk just like that to people, they will probably buy more of it.
Maybe. I don't know. I went to a guy's booth once, and he spoke in a ridiculous, over-the-top English, old English accent. And it was such a put-off for me. Like, I was thinking about buying something. Then he was like, "What ho, good sir? Perhaps thou hast thine penny for a product?" And I was like, "Nope, I'm out. Done." Because if I had to sit there and have this, like, I literally was trying to say stuff like, "So what about that news from yesterday?" It's like, "Oh, that car hitting that pedestrian." I was just trying so desperately to get him out of it. I couldn't handle it. That's too much.
Yeah.
I will sit there. Listen, I can do a pretty stellar Cleveland from Family Guy. I'll do that voice all day long. But beyond that, I think, nah, I don't want it.
No. Just be yourself. Like, that's the biggest thing. Just be yourself and don't be ashamed of it. Unless you're, like, a furry. But, yeah. It's
I knew it was coming at another point. I knew it was. Just be yourself. Unless you're not, then you're terrible.
So the best part in all of this is when I was first getting to know Tim, like, one of the first things he told me is, "I don't like furries." he and his wife and my wife and I, we go out to a place to have drinks and get to know each other and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So we're chatting and whatnot, and we're on our way back, and we're talking about different things, and he's like, yeah, I'm not allowed in this con again. I'm like, why? He's like, I don't like furries. And I'm like, okay, there's a story here. And he tells me the story, and I'm like, oh. So ever since then, anytime I see anything that's got an animal in it, I send it to him.
Yeah.
And he's like, I fucking hate you.
All the damn time.
Well, that's what you do with your friends. You figure out their weaknesses or things that annoy them, and then you keep doing those things until they hit you.
Yeah.
And then the cycle continues.
Well, guys, I hate to cut this short, but, everybody knows that we try to keep this thing roughly about an hour, and it is 9:12, and my ass gets up really, really early in the morning.
Mm.
So we are going to call it an end of this episode. I think we have done a good job of covering everything that's going to be coming out for Red Panda. Definitely make sure that we get links to everything that you got going on. I want to make sure I post it in the show notes and everything else. Make sure we get it out there. We got to get your stuff hoard out as much as possible. And I say hoard out with the most loving affection of the world's greatest pimp. But we got to do that for you. And, again, thanks for coming on the show, man. We definitely got to do this again.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm sure I'm going to have plenty more stuff to talk about. So, yeah, we'll do it again sometime soon.
Awesome. Nick, is there anything else you want to throw in there before we go?
If anyone wants to dress up as a furry and just follow Tim around,
fantastic. Thanks for joining us, guys. We'll talk to you next
time. I am potentially offering money. Don't hug him. You will get suplexed into the ground. But just follow him.
That's also a bad idea.
I'm gonna jam in one shameless self-promotion.
Do it.
So Kickstarter official date is June the 20th, 12 days away. If you guys are interested in any of the stuff I talked about or interested in any of the minis, feel free to go check it out. If there's any furries out there, understand I will not suplex you if you hug me. Just don't touch my face. And I will be more than happy to take your money for buying miniatures because they're awesome, and you could maybe dress up like them if you wanted to. I'd be okay with that.
I would actually endorse that just because of the fact that I enjoy your miniatures line.
Yeah. You see that?
There you go.
All right. Solid.
All right, guys. Have a good night. We'll talk to you later.
Have a good night.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Skirmish Supremacy. To see more of the antics that Nick and I do, you can check us out on Facebook at Skirmish Supremacy. We also have Twitter, which we can be reached at Skirmish Supreme, because apparently Skirmish Supremacy does not fit in Twitter. And if you want to email us directly, you can reach us at tim@skirmishsupremacy.com or nick@skirmishsupremacy.com. Thanks for listening.